Hey, what's going on, guys? Mark back in the workshop on Mark's Aquatics. Coffee time. Anyway, today I thought we'd have another little go at this jellyfish tank. As you can see now, I've cut around the all around the outside of the tank there now, and I've removed all those offcuts which you can see in the background there through the tank on the edge of the pond. And we'll have a look at those again in a minute, but I just thought I'd take you through what I've done. Now, on the last video you saw me making the filter grid, which I can pop back into place there. That's what we made, and we made that on the laser cutter. It's going to be the intake for the water to go through, and that sits in place in the bottom there. Now, we made it like that so we can take it out and clean out the filter below that we're going to have to make at some point during the day. Today we're going to be starting on that. Now, if you look through the back there, you can see I've cut a shape. When I've routed this out all the way around, I'll get you on a better angle in a minute, and I'll set you up, and I'll just explain to you how I chopped it out and how I got the angles. Just a quick and cheeky little way of creating the angles without going through a lot of work. So I'll set you up and we'll have a look at that, and I'll go through that with you. Right, that's a better angle for you. Now then, when you get your router, I've got my router down here. That's the router I use. If you're unfamiliar with how I cut around these things, check out some of the other paludarium builds that I've done. You can see that one in the background there, which you guys seem to like, that paludarium that I built there with the little cories in it. I'll show you how I cut the base out with that on that one. I didn't want to take you all through that again. But basically what you do is, I don't know if you can remember, if you watched it, if you're unfamiliar with it, go back and have a look, like I said. But I had a square which I stuck that to, and then what you do is you bring your router in, cut it in from the side, and then run it all the way around like that. And what happens is, with these little router bits, if you can imagine now, my finger there is the tube and the cutters are underneath. So as you're running that around, that cutter will only go in as far as that bearing there, and then it rolls. So it hits the edge of that, and it will just trim that off to the same level as that, and that bearing rolls around there nice and smooth, and you get a lovely cut that way. Sorry, we've got to I've got to polish all this up yet, and I think I might put a little bevel edge on that as well, which will look quite nice. Might not do it on the back, but I might do it on the front to give it that nice polished oval look to it. Now, I've got most of the scratches out. There's still some in there, but I've got a 3-part cutting compound which I'm going to use later on and give it its final buffing up. But what I was saying was, just get my mic sorted out here. Now, with these bits, if you can imagine now, that was around there like that. Now, as that cutter comes around, you're removing a piece pardon me, you're removing that piece there to cut that piece off. By doing that, you're cutting a mirror image on the other side. So when that's removed, you can go back in then and stick that back onto there, and you've got a complete fit all the way around it. It might need a little bit, because as it goes around the base, it cuts it quite clean, but as it gets higher, it tends to take it a little bit further out. So you do get a little bit of a gap there, and I have got a slight bit of a gap, but we can put that on top of there like that, and I can scribe around the underneath to get an absolutely perfect angle around there, and then we can do it on the spindle sander and take that back. So that's the shape I want for the base, and this is where all the filtration and everything's going to be housed. I've left it this big for now, but I could trim it up later on just to see how it looks for size and different things. And we got lots of little offcuts now. These were the other two pieces, which, if you can imagine, were stuck on there like that, you see. And that's with that router cut all the way around. And now we've got those 2 cuts. That's what I've done. I've gone from corner to corner up, measured in to give me that nice little equal piece in the middle there. And that is where we run the router around and separated it from the main tank itself. It would make one awesome paludarium as well. I was thinking about it and I thought, no, I've always fancied building a jellyfish tank, and with this 10mm stuff, it's surprising how much weight there is in that already, believe it or not. So what we've got to do is we got to take those 2 bits away now. They can come in handy for making more of these little holders. They've gone up on eBay and you guys have gone nuts for them. You've been bidding like crazy on them, which is fantastic. I can buy some more acrylic now and make some more stuff. Oh, here's some of Jack's bloodworms here. Let's give him a few of those, I think. He's waiting patiently on the surface. And he hasn't had his breakfast yet. Here you are, my little mate. Have some of those. And he's onto them. Right, that's Jack fed. He's happy now. Okay, what I've got to do now is I've got to make another one of these. Let's go.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.
Show you that shortly when we do it, on what type I'm using. But we've got little fine scores all the way around here from the saw mark. So what I'm going to do is just pinch that very carefully on there and just push. And you'll see you'll take off little tiny blades. Will just peel off. So you can hear that cutting through, or you can use both palms. Get that level across the top. And it'll take off a very, very fine little layer. Which ends up nice and static and sticks to everything. So then we keep going around and we just take those little saw marks off. Now by doing this, we create a nice polished up edge which is going to stick to the to that glue, and it's going to melt together and it's going to create a completely clear seam, which is what I'm after when we put the top piece on. Take your time doing this as well if you do have a go at any acrylic builds, and just keep going around nice and slow, keeping that blade nice and level. I'm just going to do the rest of this now and I'll get back to you when it's done. It does take a little bit of time, but it's well worth doing it because you get a lovely edge and a nice finish on there then, and it'll all look like, because when we put that bevel edge on there with the router later, as you'll see, then we'll have a nice clear joint. Okay guys, I've gone all the way around the edge now and we're nice and smooth all the way around there. All those saw marks have been scraped away and we've got a nice flat level surface all the way around now, so we can adhere that to the piece underneath there. Now, what I've got to do, just take you to the side. Got to put that on here. Now, this piece that we made from the other side of the sheet, now we've got to put on here. Now it's the same width as that, so I've got to just put that on there. I'm just going to bring it off the edge slightly and get that nice and level with the bottom edge there, and then using one of my little clamps, or I'll use two actually, we can just get that leveled up on the edge and pinch that up into place like that. Let me just turn you down a bit. There you go, that's a bit better. Get the other cramp, line him up, and now we've got to get that. Now we can roll that straight into there where that's nice and tight. You can have a look, we've got a bit of a gap there, but we're not too worried about that at the moment, because we just got to make sure that that's directly now on the bottom for that water to drain through. Otherwise it's going to look silly if it's not right at the base. We don't want it over there like that. We've got to have it directly in the middle. We've got to get our perfectly lined up. Right, what I've done now, you see I've just moved that. I've got an equal size now all the way around. Now my router bit is 12mm, okay? So I don't want that tight up against that, otherwise it's going to be a shorter cut when I do it. So I need to glue it there, but that far away, see? So I've got that gap, that 12mm gap there between that, which is nice and equal all the way around. So when we do router it off later on, it will be the same size as this piece here, okay? I'm probably just going to score a little line down each side there, so I've got the corresponding lines down there, so we've got two equal sides. And I've just thought about using the other glues, but I think I will go with the capillary action glue, the RS Pro stuff, which I use here. Going to use that with the old syringe needle. Those are the needles that I use. They're not sharp, they're hollow ended, and I don't know if you can see it there. There's no point on there, and then you just run that around like you've seen me do on other videos. So I think we'll do that. So now that's in place, we mustn't touch that at all. So with some added weight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a nice towel on the top of here to protect this surface from getting any more scratches on it. And I'm going to put a breeze block on top of that, so it really does get some weight on there. So when that glue softens this acrylic up on both sides, it'll really glue it and force it and bond it together nice and strong. Because of the clamps, I could clamp it all the way around first, but it's going to work just as well, like you saw me do when I put the slats of wood across on the other side first, with the weight on the top, when I glued it that way down. But we don't need to now, so we can put a brick on that side, a nice big breeze block, which I've got lurking around in here somewhere. So I'll just get that sorted out and then I'll get back to you. Right guys, we've got the nice big block on the top. I've opened my door on the side here. With this glues and all these adhesives, they're very, very fumy, okay? And make sure you've got a really good ventilated area when you're using them, or you'll be in space otherwise. Got my little air compressed gun there. Just blow any rubbish away. That's that sorted out. And now we've got to get the adhesive. Suck some of that out. Got a nice syringe full there. The good thing about syringes is it doesn't come out once you've sucked it up, because that pressure when you suck it up, keeps it going, keeps it all nice. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to release these clamps because we know where we are. Put them to one side. Now we can move that piece out the way now. Stick that somewhere safe. Okay, now we've got to the place now where we're going to glue it up. And all you do is you just flood it and you'll see it getting drawn under there like that, you see. And that capillary action sucks it all the way underneath. And you'll get an amazing bond. Nearly there. There you go. Now we've got all the air out, so we've got a nice clear seal now all the way around. Now we've got to leave that now to cure overnight, and then tomorrow I'll be trimming out the other side, and I might as well show you how to do that tomorrow. So there'll only be a couple of seconds to you, but it's going to be overnight for me. So I'll see you tomorrow. Okay guys, it's the next day. We've all glued up, lovely and strong, really nice clear bond all the way around, which is brilliant. And that's all down to that preparation we did with that Stanley blade that's given us that nice clear edge. Now what I've done is I've just run a ring of masking tape around underneath here, if you can see, all the way around, because when the router goes in, that little bearing does run around that wheel like I said earlier, but it's running at such a high rate spinning that you get a slight vibration from the bearing, and that will score your acrylic as well as it goes around. You'll end up with like a little bit of a blurry line going around there, which we don't want. So by putting that tape on there, that does away with that. So when we take it off afterwards, it's going to be lovely and clean underneath, and we're not going to have any scratches that way. So I'm going to stick you, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to router it out. I'll put it on hyperlapse, so I'll speed it up for you so you can see it going around. As you can see in the background there, I put a towel up across because the shavings are going to go flying around. It's a bit of a drizzly day, or I'd have done it outside. But with the power tools and things, obviously you don't want to be playing outside with electric and water. So I put the towel up there, so any of the shavings are going to go straight into that and hit that and not go in my koi pond. So yes, we're all set. So let's cut this beast out. Right guys, there we go, we're all cut out, all nice and round. A little bit of sticky tape left there, but I'll pull them all off shortly, and then we're going to buff all that up later on. But that's got that part done. So we've got a lovely big, we got the, quite a weight in there now. we got that part of the jellyfish tank done, which is fantastic. It's a big old chunk, as you can see, and lovely solid structure, nice and clear around here as well, which is going to look great when we fill that up. It's going to look like they're all just floating in midair there. It's going to be fantastic. A few little scratches left on the acrylic, but we're going to buff those out later on. We can have a really good go over it as and when we want to. But now what I've got to concentrate on is the base. I've got to do the filtration system on there now with these bits, which are still quite scratched up. But like I said before, we're going to cut all those out later on. But I've got to make the filter system now for the base. So we've just cut out the reverse side, which I've got down on the floor here. I'll just give it a quick blow off with the air. Clean that off. There's the corresponding side. Now, remember before, now will line up with that. If you remember last time where I got that, where I gave it that little bit of that extra on the edge there. So now we've got a complete mirror image now of the other side. Now we've got to cut that out across there and across there, and we can take both of those bits out now. I'll cramp them together and then we can put them on the spindle sander and level them all up and get them nice before we put the side bits on and the base, and we can start to glue together the cradle and the filter system, which is going to hold this chunky tank. So I'm going to reset the workshop up and I'll get back to you guys in a minute, okay? Right, that's better. Bit of hoovering, bit of cleaning up, and we're all back to square one again, nice and clean. Right, we've got to line that up now on there. This is the piece we've just cut off, and this is the piece that we made before. So I've got to get that exactly lined up where I want it, nice and level on the bottom. Put a bit of weight on there, and I'm just going to put a light score down it across there and across there with my little blade. And so now I can see where I've got to cut on the circular saw. So I can move that piece now out the way. I'm not sure if you can see it there now, but probably not. But those are the bits we've got to cut out. We've got to cut out down here and here. Now it's hard to see. I'll just move my towel out of the way. And then you can, we can get it all sorted out and set up on the bench. And now I've got to run it across here like this. Get the old saw blade sorted out. Got a nice little wheel underneath here, and it raises and lowers the saw. And you want it to just cut through it. You don't want the blade sticking out too far when you're cutting out these things, guys. So I always put it up against the blade, so it just comes a couple of mil above the top. And now what I'm going to have to do is twist, because I've got limited room in this workshop, it's tiny in here, so I'll have to open my door to the outside, and I'm going to have to twist this table around now because of the angle on it. I'm not going to be able to push it in without hitting the bench, so I'm going to have to readjust you again. Right, that's a little bit better. Now I've put in my little guide there, and when you undo that, it gives you different types of angles. Now you can see the way I've set that up now against that fence there, so it's going to keep it nice and tight against that fence there. You see, and we can slide that backwards and forwards on that little runner guide, which will keep that nice line all the way down there. We can get a nice cut all the way down, nice and equal both sides. Right, let's cut this thing out. Right, that's that bit chopped out. Now We got 2 equal bits. Which are going to be our cradle for the tank, you see. Let's lower that blade down again. Give that a quick blow off. Right, that's better. Right, we've got 2 equal parts now. There and there, nice and even. Just like I said before, when you had that 10mm, that 12mm gap from that router bit there, to leave that gap, so when you cut it, it cuts back to the same level. You see, we've got a nice mirror image now of that. Now all we've got to do is we've got to make a base for it. Cut a base out, which we can do. Put these 2 bits together, and I've got to measure out how wide I want it. I want to keep the filter system narrower than the tank itself, so it sits back and recesses in, because I've got a plan. I want to do something. I might try it out, you'll see later on, but I want to keep this stepped back for a reason. So now what I need is a piece of acrylic now, which is going to fill this piece in there, so we can glue those either side like that, and create our little box section for it to fit in before we put the sides on as well. We're going to put the sides on, but then we've got to also sand it up. We've got to get a nice edge on that as well to carry on that seam around the edge. So that's the next plan of action. Right, we're all set up now for this cut. I've got another piece of the offcut off that metre square sheet that we originally started with. These were the offcuts, the trims, before I stuck them on each side of the Jellyfish tank on the cylinder. So I've just marked it down there what I want, so I've got to chop that piece off, turn it around and trim a piece off that way as well, get it to length. Okay guys, there you go, we've cut out the middle piece now. Just roughly stood the other guys up either side. That's where our Jellyfish tank's now going to sit in there. I've cut it a little bit long, so I've cut it probably about ½ an inch long on each end, sticking out on each end there, because what I'll do later on is I'll run the circular saw across on that angle. I'll find that angle and I'll chop that bit down there, so when that corresponding section goes on here, it's all going to seam up and be nice across there, see? So we'll end up with a nice little edge to polish up later on, which will look nice. So now the game plan is to stick these 2 sides on. Right guys, what I've done is now, so I've cramped it up, got everything where I want it to be, clamp underneath for the middle, one each side, all nice and tight. And now we're going to glue this up as well. I've polished up all the edges as well, like we did on the other side. Haven't done anything to this edge yet, or these edges, just these leading edges that I'm gluing for the time being. And then we're going to let that go off. So I'll get the old glue out and we'll stick them together. Okay, and same as before, flood the old joints with it. Right, everything's glued up together now, so I'm going to have to let this dry again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably leave it here for today on this episode. We've got quite a lot done, and but obviously with time and over the weekend. Like I said before, I've got family here, so I've got to spend some time with them as well, and all that kind of stuff. So this is going to be left now to go off overnight, let it get nice and strong, and then we're going to buzz off these sides. So the next time you see this, guys, it'll have the sides on, and we'll shape that, and then we'll start to build the filter system inside. Okay. Yeah, looks like my decking down there could do with a clean as well. It's time to get the old pressure washer out, I think, and clean this little garden up, give it a spring clean. So that's going to be my job, I think, after I've edited this video and put it up for you guys to see. Anyway, guys, if you're new to the channel, pop back and have a look at some of the other videos that I've done. I've got lots of videos on there covering different topics, different things, and like I say, it may encourage you to subscribe to the channel, and hope to see you again. So from me, from the workshop, from little Jack over there and all the other guys in the workshop with me, look after yourselves, you're all stars, love you loads, and I'll see you on the next edition of Marks Aquatics. Bye for now.
Just me and my guitar.